Hello, Smite fans, and thank you for joining us from all across the globe. Today, we start the first of many weeks for the fall split, the final split that we head into before the famed Smite World Championship.
This is going to be an exciting, I think, next couple of weeks, and it's all leading to SWC. And for those of you on the broadcast right now, we actually have a special promotion going on. Go to hi-rezexpo.com, and you get your SWC tickets 25% off. All you have to do is enter the code SPL is back. It expires tonight at midnight Eastern, so make sure to buy your tickets now.
And I mean, you couldn't choose a better code word because SPL is back. I mean, it's all I was really thinking for the past couple of days, man.
No, I think I was like screaming it as I was like, what? Not actually, like internally screaming it as we were walking. It's been so long. You know, we've had the Epsilon Invitation. We had the SCL Summer Finals as well, but we're back in the drive, full force here, heading towards the end of the season.
And it's the first time in a couple of weeks, a couple of months actually, that we get to see our entire league. So why don't we take a look at some of the teams we'll be taking a watch as we head towards this week. Thursday and Sunday will be your North American days. Friday and Saturday, there still are games. Those are European, though, so why don't we just head into our schedule for this week?
Today, first off, EnVy going to be taking on Randozos. It's the relegation squads. Then, kind of those mid-tiers, Denial and Allegiance. SOAR looking really strong with their new lineup, bringing in Anister and Snoopy taking on LG. And we're going to close out today with two top dogs, Enemy and Eager.
That one's going to be a particularly spicy one, and then we'll start Sunday again at 1 p.m. SOAR taking on EnVy. Enemy will take on Denial Esports. Eager goes head-to-head against the Randozos, and then Luminosity will take on ALG.
And on the left-hand side of this graphic as well, you have the standings. Those will be updated. Once again, we are switching the style to a points system, very cognizant of European soccer or football, however you want to call it. I've been calling it football now, but just to remind people, these guys will be facing off in a best-of-2 set each matchup. So if a team 2-0s, they get 3 points. So, for example, if EnVy win 2-0 here against Randozos, all those dots will turn green, they'll be completely filled out, and that's what their record is. If the teams split, if they each take a game, they only get 1 point. So, making sure to close a set is very critical in these next 4 weeks.
You heard Kevin right there draw attention to the circles right in between EnVy and Randozos. Those are the circles he's talking about. Those will light up and get a little bit exciting as the teams get exciting themselves. And as we said, EnVy taking on Randozos will be our first matchup here today. And honestly, this is a nice, clean, fresh slate for two clean, fresh teams as we head into a clean, fresh split.
You know, what's exciting, I think, about this first matchup is, you know, it's not the top cards. It's these teams that came out of relegations, but they've made significant changes, and they looked very strong. Randozos struggled last split. They only had, I believe it was 2 wins by the end of it. But I think Wubbn and Whalrus have kind of come together, and I think they've done a little bit of a Pain Devion style with Enemy, bringing in 3 new rookies. There's actually 10 across the league this split, which is really exciting. And I wouldn't say I have high hopes for them, but I'm excited to see how they evolve throughout the split.
Exactly, and I think I understand. In comparison to where Randozos were last year, I have high hopes for this squad. Whalrus has done a lot of work behind the scenes to better himself, and we'll see if that translates to leadership. But I think it's the same thing across the way looking at EnVy.
Yes.
Brand new roster for the most part. Shouts to Kiki staying there strong. But PolarBearMike, I think, will be a focal point next to Skeeledon, trying to channel that power and that leadership for the success of this unit.
I think it's a bunch of players that really couldn't make it work on their own squads and throughout, but they've come together. Obviously, there was major issues with EnVy last split. This was a team we thought that would be easily top 4, compete for top 2, top 3, maybe even be good enough to get that #1 spot. They had brought in Omega, Stealth. I mean, it was a really star-studded lineup, and then they started off good. I think it was 6-2, and then everything just crashed and burned. And instead of trying to fix their problems, they just replaced players.
Right.
And that's because I think they had such a high expectation for the squad. This team, you can't really get worse than what they were at last split. They were at 7th. I guess you technically can, but I think with that pressure off them a little bit, I expect them to slowly start to get better.
Exactly. So 2 fresh teams coming in fresh slates. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time of the fall split, let's head into picks and bans.
First off here, EnVy going to be on your order side. Randozos rocking Chaos. And I'm not going to reveal their strategies just yet, but I've heard telltales of EnVy experimenting in the solo lane once again with CycloneSpin. moving away from typically those warriors and guardians. So I'm excited to see what Cyclone specifically will bring out here in game 1.
Experimentation in CycloneSpin. I mean, we're used to seeing janky stuff come out of him, even
yeah.
going all the way back to things like Bakasura and crazy mages. So no surprise to hear those rumblings. And again, if you have taken a long step away from Smite during the summertime, these bans will be surprised, but no surprise to those of us that have followed. Bacchus and Fafnir have really led the way for aggressive supports, but what's that Afro about?
I mean, this is really just a target at Kiki. We saw him playing it during relegations, and this is almost a bait because I was actually able to talk to Kiki a little bit during the Epsilon LAN. He ended up showing up and kind of showing his face, and he's like, I like playing Afro when it works, but it's not anything that I'm like, I have to get. It's just other teams don't know how to play against it, and so they almost get a free ban for themselves because other opponents have to take it away. They're not used to playing against an Aphrodite like that.
And with that off the table, that opens the first pick for Susano for Envy. Again, not really a surprise here, especially when you think about who's in the jungle for the guys on Randozos. Skeeledon was already playing gods like this Nemesis, these hyper-active in-and-out characters.
Hou-Yi picked up for Randozos. Can't go wrong with Hou-Yi. He is getting some nerfs, but that's not this patch. And a Vulcan. We've actually started to see Vulcan come back into the meta a little bit. We saw it a lot at Epsilon, looking more at Lobster than anyone else. And then even Cloud during the SEL Summer Finals brought it out in that console finals. And it was pretty exciting. It was such a small change. Just when you do damage to someone, you get a 15% movement increase, a little bit of mana, regen as well. That's not really critical. It's about having that ability to escape from those junglers who are trying to gank you, since you really don't have that jump or leap away like other mages do.
Nobody's going to call Vulcan a safe character, but he always just needed a little bit more. Between the meatball and the backfire, he had a couple of tools to get him out of jail, but would still get chased down. A couple of changes to the passive, and I think we see a different Vulcan. Still the same old soul, though. A lot of heavy wave clear, and she'll be paired up with Ravana.
You know, this soul was actually first picked. It was actually Envy prioritized this during last split, surprisingly enough, where other teams valued it, but they didn't value it as highly. Even when Golden Bow actually became meta, Envy was still first picking soul. This is something that Kiki's very comfortable with, and once again, it's that flex option. We could see it go to Oceans as well. And Oceans, man, we haven't talked about him just yet, but he was nasty as a rookie last year. I mean, we saw him, I think, against Envy in one of the opening days, right? The Golden Bow crit into Impale. Like, this kid is a star in the making.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you look at a team like Envy versus ALG, I think if you get down to the nitty-gritty, they're more even than not. Yeah. But Envy seems like a step up. And for the first split that Oceans had really played, I think that was as successful as a rookie split can really go. So heading into his second split here in the Pro League, making that, like I said, theoretical jump up to a big name like Envy, we'll see how he complements the rest of the roster.
Randos is going to line out, finish out their first half of the draft with Nemesis here, and this is something that I think Mirage is going to be very comfortable on. For those who recall old school Mirage, this is not him. This is someone who has taken that name upon himself. It's actually Dirty Bubble. So if you've ever played against the Assassins with full tank build, you can blame him. You could blame Mirage, you could blame Dirty Bubble. But Nemesis, you know, going back to that, is kind of something that I think he plays very well, because he is more comfortable, I think, being a tanky character, and that's what Nemesis provides.
Exactly, and you know, I'm really happy because that's exactly where I was going to go with the Dirty Bubble. I mean, characters like Nemesis and Thanatos weren't. The Dirty Bubble was revolutionary for other characters. Nemesis and Thanatos have always been build them tanky. So for the Nemesis choice here, like you said, hand in hand for what Mirage is known for, should work out very well. And the Athena selection for the guys on Randozos, this is very interesting, because Athena's a character that has sort of slipped down, but at the end of the day, that taunt is still devastating.
I mean, you have to at this point, right? Sobek and Bacchus have been banned away, Guan Yu as well, which is played in that kind of support position. And there's not a lot of guaranteed CC on Randozos, hard CC. They have the Vulcan knockup, which is typically one person. They have Hou-Yi, who can stun off Ricochet, which is one person, and you have to mark them first. So they need something to be able to burn Purification, I think, on these hyper carries on Envy side, specifically Susano. Athena is going to be looking to set up Vulcan and Nemesis to pick off this high-pressure jungler.
And with Vamana, it doesn't really matter how high pressure the jungler is going to be. Vamana can kind of hide, considering Nemesis is on his team. He'll just pretty much sit there in the solo lane. Ravana versus Vamana, I don't really expect anything to go down.
Yeah, I mean, Ravana's going to have the pressure. He basically wins every single lane in the solo lane unless you really mess up. There's very few who can match him, so I do expect Envy to have the pressure, and that seems to be what they're looking for. This Ares and this Ravana specifically, I think are going to have to run this early game for Envy. I'd love to see not only high pressure invades, but also potential ganks in the mid.
So as we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, EnVyUs versus Randozos, our first matchup of the 2016 fall split, and brand new teams as well. So we'll introduce you to the guys on these squadrons. EnVyUs will be represented by the famed CycloneSpin in the solo lane. Skeeledon makes his sophomore split here in the jungle. KikiSoCheeky staying on the team in the mid lane. And then PolarBearMike and Oceans, two very exciting young players to be added to this roster.
Randozos, they've kept Whalrus in the solo lane, new team captain, and they've brought in 3 rookies. Mirage in the jungle, moswal in the mid, Ghost, formerly known as Ghost Creeper, in that hunter position. And he's going to be supported by kind of another semi-veteran, I would say, very similar to Whalrus, in Wubbn.
Yeah, Wubbn's a player that is
They've been around for a while, but they haven't really had that success, right?
Yeah, Wubbn's been a pillar of the Almost There squad for so long. He's played in countless Challenger Cups, appeared in the Pro League here and there, but this is really his chance to sort of solidify himself in the SPL record books as him and the guys from Randozos try to ascend further than a couple of the previous attempts at this team.
I got to give the edge I have to give the edge to Envy here, just based on their lineup, right? CycloneSpin has something that he's not only very comfortable with, but is also high pressure. I want to see Envy utilize Skeeledon in this game specifically to set up ganks on Whalrus. They should really be looking to invade that second level of speed before that Vulcan damage comes online in the late game. And actually, Whalrus already in a little bit of trouble, taking a decent amount of poke here. He's got potions, though.
Yeah, I actually like the pick out of Whalrus on the Vamana, because he'll be able to play it safe. I think that Envy do know that they want to attack Whalrus, but on the Vamana, he's got the option to be very... He doesn't have to really annoy anybody.
No, he's just kind of there. That's kind of his dig to really be in lane here. Left-hand side, though, PolarBearMike actually gone for the blink. And I like this pairing with Ares, putting a soul in the dual lane, because Ares does struggle if he gets behind in lane, and this soul is going to have a lot of wave clear very early on, and Wubbn already getting triple chained.
Yeah, no real way for Wubbn to escape right now. A lot of damage coming out of the Ares. Won't be able to finish him unless the Stellar Burst does not quite...
Just shy, and that was the shell. Really well played by Wubbn. The second he got triple chain, not only did he taunt to kind of delay that third chain coming out and maybe look for a juke, but what he also did is he popped this shell, barely able to stay alive there. PolarBearMike's not going to dive that tower, but this pressure from Envy is massive right now.
And really, it's all about the translation of the power. The pressure coming out in spades in that duo lane allows the mid lane from Envy to really head into the jungle. Kiki coming out of the enemy jungle. These two here in Envy, they just invaded the back Harpies, and that's because of the success of the duo lane.
And also Skeeledon. I mean, you just look at kind of the mid-jungle combination, and Raijin Susano is a lot scarier. There's a lot of poke potential on there, which I think Envy has been focusing on. We already saw it not only in the duo and the solo, but we didn't watch it in the mid, and that's what you need to be doing if you have this high pressure. You don't need to commit. You don't need to dive towers at 2 minutes, but make it so the other team is comfortable so you can set up for those gank opportunities.
Exactly, and really that's what these ganks are all about, is creating a false sense of security, lulling your opponent into sort of a spot where they feel confident going into these engagements, and then you're able to sort of maximize off of that faux confidence.
Yeah, Cyclone's been doing a good job here, but a decent rotation to these fire relays. And Randozos is actually gonna take control of them for now. They're still down 500 gold, and actually Skeeledon trying to force a fight.
And there's the ultimate out of Nemesis. Huge chunk, but Raijin doing the same as well. Susano and Kiki looking for the last hit. One more shot will do it, but it can't be found. Vulcan over the top. Whalrus gets first blood for the Randozos, and CycloneSpin answers right on back, taking down Mirage.
That was so unfortunate for Kiki. He tried so hard. I mean, his mindset was he was gonna die the second he thunder crashed in, but he thought he would be able to clean up the Nemesis beforehand, get that first first Blood Bunny. Instead, Mirage puts on his best juke shoes, weaving in and out, and that lack of boots so early in the game became a big factor for Kiki. He couldn't keep up that pace and catch up to the jungler.
Big shouts to moswal as well. Vulcan ultimate really doesn't do that much damage early game unless you launch it from virtual max distance, and Kiki lost about 40% of his life bar to that shot.
I mean, it's back to the boots, right? I mean, without boots, it's so much easier to find those Vulcan ults, and now because of the first blood, Randozos already setting up for an invade onto this speed.
And right now, trouble for Skeeledon. He's going to fall down very easily to the rotation, the hard rotation out of Wubbn with the Athena ultimate.
Ooh, actually, a fight over in the left-hand side. Ghost really doesn't want to give up his boards for free, and Oceans realized he stayed a little bit too long, but there is a rotation coming in from Nemesis. Needs to be a little careful here as Mirage, his ult is back up.
And that's going to drop it right on top of the soul. She doesn't have Disapparate available, so drops the ultimate on top of her feet. A couple more shots should do it. Mirage chasing it down under the tower. That's another kill for the jungle, but the tower bites back, and Oceans gets credit.
Now that's actually not good for Oceans. Even though he did return a kill, there's so much free farm for Ghost right now if he chooses to take this wave. He does want a safe back though. You could see Susano making that rotations, and a really good job by Mirage. He actually walked into the supernova following hits because he had already got knocked up, so he knew it was only bonus damage and was able to put out enough pressure as well as having that reflect damage just on the shield to help secure the kill.
You know, we mentioned a lot, and I think there's been a lot of talk outside of certain circles about this Randozos being just a different approach to the game. A lot of different attitudes, a lot of different, more serious take, and honestly, what we're seeing right here, Kevin, is proof in the pudding. Randozos coming off loud with a first blood and then a couple of early ganks. We're only 5 minutes in, and you can see that Mirage and moswal aren't shying away from these big plays.
You know, the thing is, though, it's not like Randozos are actually taking the initiative. They did at the speed buff only, but they also had the Athena support, so they had the guaranteed numbers. It's really been Envy forcing stuff. Ocean's trying to steal those boards. On the right-hand side, Kiki and Skeeledon getting very aggressive on those mid-harpies, and you can see Envy are trying to get that lead early. It's just not going in their favor.
And I think it's really easy to just point at a rookie and say, hey, you're not going to respond to the aggression out of a team like Envy. But Mirage and moswal has answered the call. Envy want to make another play. PBM blinks on in, doesn't get the pull, and the ultimate out of Susano goes into nothing.
PBM's going to be in a lot of trouble too. Vulcan will actually shred Skeeledon. Kiki just trying to peel. You can see going up into Taiku drums. Ooh. I guarantee you those were the fear hits. Really good response by Kiki. The Nimble actually comes out a hair too late. The protections weren't stolen away before the Vulcan ultimate hit, and I think if Skeeledon's a little bit lower there, we might see Randozos commit more.
Yeah, and I think if the mid laner isn't there, Raijin, Kiki saves that entire play. 3 taunts, backfire gonna do some damage as well. Mirage starts the party. Expect another kill, BBM very low. There's the dash forward from Raijin, but PolarBearMike just barely escapes underneath his tier 1 tower. Mirage gave chase, but couldn't catch up.
I think Mirage has taken more damage from towers than players at this point. I mean, this guy has no hesitation to go in, and that's sometimes what you need, right? I think very similar to Verizial or Shattered on the side of enemy, right? No fear from them, and because of this, Randozos, the pressure they put out is going to open up an opportunity for gold.
Speaking about no fear, Kiki does not have an ultimate available. Gold Fury goes the way of Randozos easy, but CycloneSpin wants to make him pay, taking down the jungler. Hunter's caught in a bad spot as well. Oceans gets credit for Ghost, and now Envy off of 2 kills, gonna look for the invade.
It's very important that they get this speed as well, and this is actually going to even up exactly what that Gold Fury gained.
Yep.
This early on, Gold Fury's not worth that much. You can see about 11 to 1200. The game was dead even before then, and already with those 2 kills, as well as the red buff steal, and just the fact that your players are going to get solo farm now that their direct lane opponents have died, it is going to go back into that very even game.
Yeah, super tie game after Envy makes a very important play post Gold Fury. Like I said, and that was that's the old CycloneSpin effect. Randozos 3-on-2 at the moment. PolarBearMike responds the only way he can, and is still alive at the moment, but the ultimate out of Whalrus might turn that around. PBM walks right into the mid lane, and Vulcan
This is
gets
just
the kill.
traps. This is just traps set across the map by Randozos. That's phenomenal. Not only on the left side to force that fight, get the Gold Theory, but then right there, they know exactly what Envy's planning to do. And it's not even like they have these incredible wards, right? On the right-hand side, there was no ward that actually showed that PBM was over there. He just knew, right? And this is Wubbn specifically, and Randozos are utilizing their Athena beautifully in this match, not only to counter the Ares ult, which we saw when PolarBearMike was trying to force that fight onto him, but also rotating to those counter initiations.
You said something earlier. You said guaranteed numbers, and that's really what Athena's bringing to the table, and Randozos are fighting into that. They're taking a 2-on-2 and making it a 3-on-2. They're taking the 3-on-3 and making it a 4-on-3. Having that guaranteed extra player, they're only making these aggressive engagements, Kevin, when Wubbn has that ultimate up.
And Envy now, they're going to have to rethink their strategy because they've been very aggressive, but it's been surprising, right? PolarBearMike almost seems like he's trying to force these fights too hard, right? Not only, specifically when he tried to pick off an Athena who has an ult that directly counters him, he also burned his blink for it. And I wonder if this is maybe a little bit of nerves coming in from them.
I don't know about that one. I think this is just a result of the choice of blink early on. I mean, if you're going to go the blink early on, as basic as it gets, you don't have purification till level 12. And especially when it comes to an Ares, you see this a lot with Bacchus as well. These supports will inevitably get abused because of their lack of crowd control immunity. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Randozos just smite 101. The Ares doesn't have beads. Let's make him burn them.
I mean, right, Nemesis into Ares is such a good counter matchup too, which is a little bit surprising that we did see PolarBearMike elect to last pick it in that position, as the Nemesis, I believe, was already locked in to the picks and bans, and now, whoo, a little bit of butt clinch in there. What is it? Squeaky bum time,
Squeaky
calls
bum
it?
time, Hindu has told
Wubbn
us.
trying to set up a kill as someone was back in there in the jungle.
Hindu's half proud, half embarrassed that we're ruining
he's
his
proud.
language.
He is not embarrassed at that at all, I bet you. Very few things embarrass Hindu.
Now that's certainly the truth, and that's what we've seen out of Oceans, really. Just not afraid of any really big spot, whether it be the spotlight, limelight, or otherwise. Stepping into Envy here in his second split. He's ready to take these fights one-on-one. We already saw that go head-to-head with Ghost.
And you can actually see Envy, the two players that have actually been playing very well, or at least are on the cleanup, are Cyclone and Oceans, and that's what you want, right? Your core's behind, but as long as they don't get absolutely decimated and Randozos are in a position to invade their jungle, that's okay.
Whalrus getting in trouble right here. 2-on-1, but of course that Athena getting even things up. There's a toss from Susano, so you get an ult pretty much for nothing right there. I don't think Susano needed to ult there.
Yeah, I mean, Skeeledon had purification up, so he almost could have baited someone into the tower. More than likely Athena. I think Skeeledon a little bit more worried, thinking some other players were closer, and we actually have a mass rotation over here. Ocean's caught alone by himself, stunned into the taunt, straight into Nimble. Disapparate will be activated, but no one in Envy is close enough yet.
Yeah, I mean, Ocean's just waiting to get put down. Moswal gets credit for that. So many players grabbed, but only one gets pulled. There's the damage coming out of the mid lane onto the support, but won't be much of anything. Randazzo still very strong in the mid lane, 5 players up.
CycloneSpin also TPing in there, but just gonna only be able to get those heartbeats. And once again, that was a rotation to the right-hand side. We saw kind of that aggression in the soul lane, and now aggression onto the speed as well. PolarBearMike taunted out, and Mirage looking for the jungler instead. PolarBearMike nowhere to go. He doesn't have a sprint to get out, but Randozos will drop it. They don't want to chase too deep into Envy's jungle.
And look at that discipline, Kevin. I think last year's Randozos chase all the way to, I mean, let's say the Phoenix, right? This year's Randozos, a much different team. They have that discipline, and they don't go that deep.
They're looking really good, and despite Mirage having 3 kills, I'm a big fan of this guy already because he has no fear, right? He will dive into your tower as long as he knows he can secure a kill, and he is clearly the setup man. The hard carries from what I've seen right now are going to be Ghost Creeper and Moswal. Ghost Creeper has shown he's not afraid to take a fight with Oceans 1v1. Moswal, just on this Vulcan specifically, just gets so much free poke damage off, and he's really been playing around Wubbn and his aggression perfectly.
And I mean, he built a Doom Orb. Anytime you build a Doom Orb, you say, "Hey, I'm here to do the things. I'm not just gonna sit passively, build a wing blade and a helm, and just sort of push my buttons."
I'm not gonna lie. I would really like to see a wing blade on Moswal. Like, you look at the comp he's against, the Ravana just chain slows. You've got one from PolarBearMike on the chains and then Oceans with a pretty easy to connect stellar burst.
I'd rather see a Magi's Blessing even before the change. I think Magi's Blessing does very well against this composition.
I mean, not really, because the only thing you're looking to Magi's is the Ares pull.
Ares pull, Susano ultimate. My point is that there's not a lot of easy to strip Magi's Blessing abilities on the side of EnVyUs. So you're going to get guaranteed, like, when you use the bubble, it's actually going to matter.
That's true. And it is a significant amount of health. I just think he's going to be more worried about CycloneSpin running him down in the back
That's
line.
very true.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the Warrior's job, especially Robin, right? He wants to find the mage or the hunter that's A, not going to be able to kill him, and B, he can just not worry about just not worry about anything. He just like slows you down. Even if he doesn't kill you, he takes you out of the fight.
Yeah, he just punches you all day, River City Ransom style. So certainly what he's looking for right now. Randozos waiting. I think both teams are sort of waiting around this Gold Fury spawn.
And this is what the Randozos should be going. EnVy drafted into a very high-pressure composition, the Robin and the Solo, Susano, Raijin in that mid-jungle, and then an Ares with Blink. They wanted to fight early, and here it goes. PolarBearMike looking for another set of kills. Susano going to find the ultimate, and Taiko drums aren't going to be enough as moswal from downtown finds PBM.
There's the Blink forward coming out of the Raijin, important immunity, but it's just going to last for the moment. The turnaround hits are large, but Mirage able to find the kill. Wubbn survives, Mirage does not.
He's actually taking more damage from towers than players at this point. Like, Mirage is like, I'm just going to dive you, and as long as I get the kill, that's fine. He's a Nemesis. He can do this.
Exactly. That's the thing. If you want to dive towers over and over again for kills, it's all about the situation, and this is one of the situations where it makes sense. Like you said, he's a Nemesis. That's kind of what he's there for, and more importantly, keeping Raijin down is almost a necessity when he's in the game. That mid to late game power spike that he gets once he gets a couple of items and is able to really put the points into Taiko drums, Kiki's going to be very, very scary later on in the game. So a lot of heavy pressure in the mid lane really enables Randozos to sort of stretch out this early mid.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if Kiki's going to be going into the Book of Thoth or the Soul Reaver. The Soul Reaver might be better at this point just because they're so far behind. Just that 15% extra or that 50% extra damage on a player could be the difference between a kill and someone escaping with just, you know. But TLDR, Book of Thoth is going to have more damage overall. Soul Reaver will have significantly more damage during that proc.
Soul Reaver's the bang. It's all about the big one-shot.
It's like, this person, I want him to die, and he's now going to die.
Exactly, and I don't think that's necessarily the scenario that you want to take towards Randozos, because you can eliminate the Nemesis, but Nemesis has probably already done the job of ulting somebody. You can eliminate moswal, and that'll be a big deal, but Ghost is still available. And I think that's one of the big deals about Randozos. As this game gets later, their composition has two unique threats in moswal and Ghost, so you've got to sort of share the damage.
And Randozos aren't trying to force any fights still. Unless there's an opportunity, they will. They've just been holding out for this late game. They've been utilizing Wubbn to counter-engage. He's had really great relic timing as well with the shell. He's just picked up a sprint, which I think is going to be critical in this match, especially against CycloneSpin.
And that's led Randozos to a slight lead, almost 2,000 gold. You can see they're up 3 kills as well. And it's honestly Randozos a little bit of aggression, but Randozos have made a lot of plays off of EnVy's big ghost gunshots, and that's what they're doing right here. EnVy starts up the Gold Fury. Randozos respond with a big Athena ult and pushes EnVy right off.
It was a bait. And EnVy were just baiting for a fight. The second the Athena ult comes out, they know they don't have to worry about that anymore. And they're actually looking to re-engage on the right-hand side. Whalrus doing a good job of distracting everyone. Gold Fury already under 50%, and here comes PBM. He's got 4 and a shell activated on top.
There's the Nemesis ultimate coming down as well. Mirage takes out PolarBearMike off of moswal's Vulcan ultimate. 5 players from Randozos still killing it. Whalrus taking out Skeeledon. And players exiting left and right, but Oceans won't be one of them. He gets surrounded, and here's CycloneSpin way too little too late.
I mean, Kiki's on the corner as well, but there's the taunt, and it's already 4 dead. Only Kiki's left alive. Whalrus is just going to zone him out. I don't think he's going to be able to find the kill unless he can connect the slow, but here comes Mirage again. He's taking more damage from towers than anything else here. Sanctuary's going to be activated. Under tower, taking the shots here, and I don't think Kiki's going to have the timer on that Thunder Crash, and he is going to fall eventually, along with the Gold Fury. Randozos quickly spiking their lead up to 5,000.
Decisive, unofficial or not, and the objective. And literally, the last thing I said before we went into this situation was Randozos found a small lead off of not just their own aggression, but EnVy making plays and Randozos responding. And that's exactly what just went down there. EnVy made it a gold, and Randozos responded in kind.
Well, here's the problem, is that EnVy have an Ares that is very far behind. 6 levels behind moswal, 7 levels behind Whalrus, and he has 0 health items. PolarBearMike took, this is one of the risks of running Ares, is that if you get behind early, you get really far behind. He's forced to go into the Spirits row because he's getting CC'd so much. I would have rather seen the Wing Blade at this point, just having the mobility to escape in the middle of the fight, because Mirage, or excuse me, not Mirage, moswal, I don't think he's missed a Vulcan ult. I think he's hit every single one close to max range, and shoutouts to him because that is not an easy thing to do.
Not at all. No, moswal's been on the money. 3-0-7 for the mid laner on Randozos, and you know, all of that damage that he's done, you can see him way there up at the top, has been effective damage. A lot of times we look at solo laners and Vulcan players as having this sort of fake damage, this inconsequential damage, just because of, like you said, poke, but all of this Vulcan damage has resulted in kills and objectives and otherwise.
And this is the scary thing about Vulcan. The later the game goes, the better he gets. We've seen these Vulcans in the Epsilon Invitational, at the SCL Finals, just at 40 minutes, full build, they've got like 60k damage and everyone else has 30k and below. The Meatball Magma Bomb, it does so much damage, as well as the knock-up to guarantee the backfire as long as the player doesn't mess up, which at this level, I expect very rare instances where that will happen, and they're going to connect it every single time.
And Backfire winds up hitting, Backfire winds up hitting so incredibly hard. 80% scaling, Kevin. As the game gets later and later, he winds up hitting you like a Hebo with that Backfire. It's on a 3-second cooldown.
And moswal's actually, you can see his skill order there, not even leveling or maxing the Magma Bomb, which is typically considered the better poke because you have the follow-up damage off of the Backfire. He's gone for the turret and the Backfire. And that turret, I mean, if left untouched, it will start to wreak havoc. And really, the only one who can deal with it with AoE damage are the two mages in Oceans and Kiki.
And moswal positioning the turret really strongly. We heard Clow from the SCL Finals talk about how important it is to position that turret exceptionally well, and we've seen moswal put it sort of away from these team fights where it's able to find an exit, so if the players leave, they get shot from it or otherwise, and creativity with the turret certainly something very important if you want to play Vulcan at a high level.
Looking at the relics here, Randozos have gone into 3 teamfight relics. The meditation, the sprint, and the shell, and we saw the shell just be so effective at basically saying, PolarBearMike, you're doing nothing this fight. Because he kind of baits himself in. We see PVM Blinken get 4, right? But then the shell comes out, so even if he pulls a couple people and combines the damage with Kiki, because Kiki is so far behind as well, they can burn both their ultimates, get the full damage off, and Randozos are barely tickled. After that, you immediately follow up with Whalrus finding the meditation, and it's very hard for Envy to fight into this composition when Wubbn is in. They almost need to pick off everyone else but Wubbn at this point.
And right now, it doesn't really matter who they even look at or want to pick off. It doesn't seem like it's just even in the cards. Randozos just casually take out a tier 1 tower on the right. Nobody had anything to say about it. Envy going to stand a little bit more heavily for defense against this tier 2, but the numbers are not in their favor. You've got everybody here for Randozos. Look at moswal's positioning. He's looking for the long-range Vulcan ult. He's specifically looking for it, Kevin.
It's going to be off the turret here, or not the turret, actually the taunt, but Envy's already moving forward. Oceans gets nailed, and how are Envy going to fight into this? moswal pushing forward, finds the Magma Bomb. The suns are raining. The Typhoon knocks up a couple, but Envy simply don't have the health to continue the fight.
And it's all because of a great shot from moswal.
He doesn't miss. He actually doesn't miss.
He eliminated,
what the hell?
It was 3 or 4 players that went from full to 40%. Everybody from Envy take a step back, and Randozos just step right on in, take the tower, doesn't even need a kill. All he needs to do is get the tower.
Oh, Cyclone, he probably could have died there. He does have his ultimate, so it would have been hard to lock him down, but Randozos, they get the tier 2, they back off. I like this. They know the timer on gold. They're going to reset for that. They could look to bait Fire Giant, but at this point, I think because the team fights are going so well, there's almost no point in doing Fire Giant right now.
Oh, yeah.
Why take the risk? Why let Fire Giant get off a lot of team fight damage on you and just potentially wipe you?
You know, maybe I'm reading it too into this, but I love the hard commit to the call. Randozos get the tower, and then everybody retreats. CycloneSpin teleports in the middle of 5, and we still see the retreat. Nobody even really turned around to look at Cyclone, and like I said, maybe I'm looking too hard into this, but for me, that says Randozos called a hard retreat, don't care what happens. I like to see that.
They're looking much better, and this is the best team that Randozos could have faced, right?
Yep.
Another kind of recycle team finished bottom of the league last split, and this gets their feet wet, right? If Randozos have to go up against enemy, you know, day 1, that that's not the easiest thing to do. This way, if they find, if they find this win or even two, right, they're going to be very confident, right? And I think that's important, is to make sure you feel comfortable and confident when you face those top tiers.
And that's the easiest way to really launch up into there. And, not even just the top tier, the middle tier. What are you pointing at?
I'm pointing out the Rada Tahuti that was just finished for the guy that's never missed a Vulcan ult in his life. As PolarBearMike picked off, and here it comes. He's already dead. He's going to miss the one, but it doesn't matter. The player was actually just dead already.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I sort of just sighed. What else do you do when you see a Ares surrounded by 5? The shell is the choice.
I mean, his shell is down. He has no health in his build. I mean, we're 23 minutes in, and Randozos are just going to be able to shred him at this point. I feel like they can only take fights at their own towers and phoenixes, but Randozos aren't pushing any issue too much. They're just playing a very safe, very calculated game based off their lead right now.
Nobody's ever going to tell you shell is a poor item, but it's all situational, right? Smite builds are all about adaptation. I gotta put this Ares under the microscope. Still no purification. I would have sworn going 0-3, 0-4 before level 12 that we would have seen the Puri.
I mean, purification isn't going to help him at this point, right? Shell's going to do so much better for the team. I think if you're going to go purification, you got to go it at level 1. And the game plan was for Envy was, we want to be aggressive. We're going to run the blink. And that's the thing. When you run the Ares, there is that any god you pick, you run a risk versus reward on it, where it's like, okay, what's the risk of getting behind on a Athena versus an Ares? What's the risk of getting ahead on an Athena versus an Ares? Well, if you get ahead on an Ares, it's going to be, I would rather be ahead on an Ares than ahead on a Sobek.
Oh, of course.
But I would rather be behind on a Sobek than behind on an Ares.
Right.
And that's one of the main reasons you never see Ares as that top tier support pick.
There's too much wiggle room there, and definitely, I see where you're coming from. Envy have already made the idea. They've already made the game plan to go ahead and be that aggressive squad. Randozos going to be aggressive right now on the objective. Starting up the Fire Giant very slowly, though. Not a lot of damage. Now the damage really committing 50% on the objective. Envy sniffing around.
Though.
No.
They have no Wrath, so Randozos have to play this very precariously, and they know it. They're really just looking for a bait on Envy right now. They've won every single fight, and PolarBearMike cannot blink in. If PolarBearMike blinks in again, I think Envy will lose the game off that initiation. I really do at this point, because he is just going to get deleted. They don't even need Nemesis ult to kill him anymore. He's just dead.
I'd have to agree. We've seen it. He's 0-4-0. Unfortunately, hasn't been able to be a part of any of his team's kills. His team has amassed 5. Here they return kills, big plays, and they want to get a couple here. Chain's going to be off the mark. So Envy doesn't really have anything to say here. Whalrus very deep. Could be problematic for his team, but Envy showing a lot of...
I'm the solo laner now. That's what he's like, looking at Cyclone like, I'm the solo laner now. What are you going to do? You're getting beat by Randozos on opening match of the fall split.
I mean, we mention all the time about how solo lane is more about just he who pushes his buttons and is a lot about getting into the enemy's head. Whalrus, there was no play to make. Nobody was following him. He just dashed into CycloneSpin.
Yeah, these last few minutes have been good for Envy though, because Randozos after the Gold Fury haven't really been able to force anything, and we've actually haven't been paying attention to it. But Skeeledon has been split pushing a lot. I believe he stole the red buff as well. He's just been in Randozos' jungle, catching up because he's been so far behind. Randozos do need to be precarious, right? They need to force stuff. They just want to do it safe. It almost feels like they're doing it too safe, though. And here they go, back onto the FG, and no one from Envy in position. CycloneSpin's going to be the first to smell it out.
And this is more of a commit. Randozos will take this Fire Giant if nobody from Envy show up, but you can see 2 players from the south, 1 from the north. CycloneSpin going to get into some trouble, but Randozos don't notice him. Skeeledon shows up as well. Knockup is strong on both him and Soul. There's the Raijus. Wubbn very close to death. He gets surrounded. Kiki takes him out. Damage going the way of Oceans as well. Whalrus answers back. 1 dead on each side, but down goes CycloneSpin again on the good side of a fight. 2 players from Envy very low, and they're dealing with Whalrus, but up into the big baby. He's going to chase down Kiki, and the blink is strong enough to get Kiki out of jail. There's a dash forward. Gets grabbed away. Skeeledon with a great play to save his teammates.
He's going to run straight into Mirage, though. No, Mirage actually falls off. Whalrus is not giving this up. Thundercrash should be back online. He's turned his attention to Cyclone. He'll probably die eventually, just trying to get off as much damage as possible, and actually doing a good job against Whalrus here, but The rotation is in, and overall, fantastic fight for Envy. Despite it going even overall, 2 for 2, once again, they've delayed Randozzo's closing out the game. The later it goes, the better it is for Envy, because Randozzo's are very close to capping out, right? Most of their players have finished their builds, right? They're looking for that 1.5 last bit of items, and Envy have a significant way to go. And full credit to CycloneSpin. The
Absolutely.
loop around there is really what allowed Envy to come out even on that fight.
And like you said, as the game gets later, it sort of evens things up. Right now, Randozos have a commanding lead. 10K in the lead at 28 minutes, 28 and a half right now. That is a huge dominating lead, but you put 10 minutes on this match, and all of a sudden, those numbers don't matter. Things get evened up. Envy watching Randozos taking the Fire Giant 25%. PBM can't find a way in. There's the hits with the Mage, but Fire Giant goes the way of Dozos. Here comes the fight. PolarBearMike in way too much trouble. Knock up and the knock in, and Whalrus knocks him down.
Look at the backline though. Kiki's getting isolated, but in the meanwhile, Skeeledon trying to dive moswal. He's gonna fall in return. CycloneSpin does clean up the kill here. Still 4 members strong with FG, and Randozos are trying to clean up the 2 players deep into their jungle. Ocean's gonna fall. The taunt onto Cyclone. He'll fall too. Only Kiki's gonna remain alive, and Randozos looking very healthy in this match.
And that was fantastic positioning coming out from the clowns there on the right-hand side, chasing down those 2 players. You saw the 4 players instinctively separate into 2 squads of 2 so they could collapse onto the Hunter, jumps right on top of Oceans, puts him down, knowing that CycloneSpin has a couple of extra tricks. The squad finally puts down the solo lane, but again, very small plays turning into big
I mean, the main
events.
issue there was that Envy tried to steal Fire Giant instead of trying to fight. Kiki's Taiko drums come out to steal it, but everyone on Randozos had already secured it. They just split up, and now Randozos are going to find PBM pushed up really far. Quickly, the Nemo comes out. Ghost finds the kill, and they're actually going to chase down 1 more kill as well. Kiki very deep, trying to get the damage. 1 shot, 307 on the basics. Mirage finishes off Kiki, and the team as a whole just going to be cleaning up the last tower.
Mirage, the man that built a name for himself on tanky junglers, playing the quintessential tanky jungler, building, well, very aggressive. He's got the Jotun's Wrath, the Void Shield, Stonecutter Sword, as well as the Chin's Blade. This is not a tanky Nemesis. This is, I'm diving towers, and I'm going to kill you, hitting you for 400 a basic.
I mean, the main thing is that there's really no need for him to get much tankier.
Exactly.
Right? As long as he can survive Envy's initial initiation, mostly centered around the Supernova and the Taiko drums, he's gonna be fine. Also, we see CycloneSpin's plan. He's trying to jump on moswal, make it very hard for him to get off those connecting Vulcan ultimates, which really what allowed Randozos to find that 10K lead and put that pressure on him. Now Mirage can deal with CycloneSpin in his backline with this build.
And look at that, number 3 on the player damage as well. You know, he's just been crushing it. 7, 4, and 14. There's 21 kills. He's missed a single kill, which I'm pretty sure was a 1v1 single solo kill. This Nemesis has been all over the map from minute 1, a part of not only the first couple of kills, but also every single kill around the map otherwise. And it's been a pleasure to watch. This has been one of the more aggressive Nemesises that we've seen in a long time.
And yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do as a Nemesis. I mean, she is a very aggressive character. Not so much on invading, but when it comes to ganks, she just absolutely shines, especially if your mage gets a little bit of a lead, and that's exactly what moswal did. He's at almost 19,000 damage. He's got a Soul Reaver finished. He's got a fully stacked Doomore, Rod of Tahuti, and he's going to finish off, it looks like, with a Book of Thoth. I mean, it's just pure damage coming out from this guy. I want him to get a wing blade, but at this point, he doesn't need it. He's just going to kill Cyclone.
And that's what this mid jungle has been about. All about, well, we could avoid their damage, or we could just kill them with our own.
Skeely.
Envy goes a little too deep. Skeely gets knocked up. Vulcan ultimate over the top.
Doesn't
Finds
miss.
1, gets a second. Double kill for moswal. Randozos pushing down forward. 3 players alive for Envy, but we've already seen 2 Phoenixes down. We'll take a look at the 3rd.
They're playing so safe right now. Instead of going right in, they're going to take out this last Phoenix. The taunt from Wubbn. He's going to actually hold it and switch his attention straight to CycloneSpin. Not healthy enough to survive. He's got to head back to the fountain. The big baby comes out, and Randozos are going to be able to clean up game 1 of the fall split here up against EnVyUs.
Yeah, PolarBearMike does what he can, but Cast Titan falls down. Dozos take the first game, and they do so in fantastic fashion. 20,000 gold in the lead there at the end of the game, Kevin. And a lot of it came off of, well, the entire team.
I mean, I've got to give credit to this combination of Mirage and moswal, and then Wubbn also playing off of them. I mean, it was, I think Envy messed up in the early game. I think they tried to, I almost think they disrespected or didn't give enough respect to Randozos.
Sure.
Which I'm not exactly sure how accurate that is, because I think PolarBearMike values everyone in the SPL very highly. But some of the fights and he was trying to force and take didn't really make a lot of sense. Like he solo ulted an Athena who had her ult up. She quickly got out, and he almost baited himself into death so many times. It's very scary to go aggressive as an Ares up against a Nemesis, because the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get all your protection stripped away. Even if you bolster defenses, right? If the Nemesis can actually hold her ability until you bolster defenses, now she's even tankier. And we saw Mirage actually take more damage from diving towers than anything else.
And I mean,